Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this special meeting of the Hayden City Council together on Wednesday, August 31st, 2022. Would you all please stand with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As this is a special session of City Council, we will forego our normal public comment session, but I'd like to have a roll call, please, of all of the council members.
Council President Roeder?
Present.
Councilmember Dupree?
Here.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
And Councilmember White is absent. We do have a quorum.
Okay. We have, if you folks have any of the agenda there, we have 2 items of unfinished business tonight. The first item is to consider a base budget increase ballot language for law enforcement. Mr. Boyer, have you got some information for us?
Maybe just to outline where we've been, just briefly, so that what was in the memo, so that people are aware. The task force made a recommendation at the beginning of August 3rd, I believe, and so we brought that recommendation from the task force to the city council meeting on August 9th and presented their motion to the council. The council voted to move forward with the recommendation and directed staff to draft ballot language, leaving the amounts blank and to bring it back to the August 16th meeting. All right. During the August 16th meeting, which was a special council meeting, the council approved the language for the ballot to increase the base budget to $2,388,862, a difference of $597,843, basically to cover 6 new Hayden dedicated officers. The council decided also and gave direction at the follow-up meeting to take public comment on this issue. So that would be the August 23rd meeting. City council met. That was our regular meeting. And there was some language that was brought forward and some information that was found that day. And Mayor and I discussed and put approval of that language on hold until we received additional ballot language. After that meeting, just mentioned there were some good questions and discussion at that meeting. There were some possible changes to the numbers tonight, if you so would like to discuss that and have that. So anyways, the actions tonight need to consider whether or not you want to stick with that 597,843 or modify the amount down. And then also consider for approval modification or denial of the election ordinance to be considered for this evening. We need to, if you so choose to move forward, part of the issue is we have to publish the ordinance in the paper prior to giving it to the county. And so, and that takes several days to get it in and published. So, and the deadline is to get that to the county by September 9th. So you have the draft of ballot language in your packet. You have ballot language for the 593, 597, and then also for the 543. So I think with that, I do have some slides if there are questions on different things I can put up. I think there was one question just based on budgeting. And there was mention by some folks about, us not adding to the budget over the past few years. And I just wanted to show on here that from 2018, there actually was a 40% increase on what we were paying the county. And we took that out of general fund. We had added, they had requested, because we had fallen behind on adding a vehicle, and the vehicle's 75,000. And so we agreed to do a one-time 75,000, but our normal was to do a half for 4 officers to keep a rotation of moving the cars out that had too many miles. And so the next year there was a reduction because we went from the 75,000 down to half of that. And then the next year the sheriff asked for the seasonal overtime, and so we added that amount, the 29,000, so that was an additional 9% increase. And then last year through the budget process, we had the half car and the seasonal, and then we were asked to actually increase the amount we were paying as well. I think it was actually asked more, but through the budget process, we settled on the 402. And so those were increases to the base budget amount that we had of 285,853 over the past few years. Let's see. Any questions on that, or? Oh,
I have
I'm
one,
supposed to share that.
if I may. Could you go back to the slide, Brett, please? So for fiscal year 2023, we are adding another, not to the base budget, but a one-time $300,000.
That's correct.
Is that correct? So,
That's correct.
so about what does that increase 2022 to 2023? What would that be approximately?
Danny, can you add 300,000 to 402?
702, 354.
That I can do without a calculator, just so everybody knows.
I don't have a calculator. I don't have a calculator. I do.
80%
I
increase,
have my phone, I usually use my phone.
300 to 402 is going to be probably about an 80% increase around there.
That's going to be a significant percentage increase.
And again,
And I
that's a
think-
one-time,
Correct.
because we have the money to be able to do that.
We have one-time money that we can.
Almost 60%,
That's all.
57%.
Okay.
Okay, good question.
Great. Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done. That's all I
Okay, I
have.
have a question. The negotiated reduction amount of 543,843, do you have any slides or anything on that to show
Yeah, I can show you.
as to what, I mean?
Okay, so what I'll show you is this isn't the first original. The one that we gave to the task force, we had to estimate what our total valuation, our total taxable valuation was. So when you look down here, you can see where the arrow is. That is the new number that we've received, the 3,353,000,000. Last year's valuation was 2,053,000,000 something. And so it was a significant increase on the valuation. And so what we had given to the task force was this, but utilizing last year's. And so once we received the new valuation, we plugged that in, and we had a little bit higher amount than the 543. Now, from the last meeting, Matt asked a good question that kind of spawned some thinking. He had asked, well, what's the total amount? Meaning not just the increase of the 6, but what would be our total amount? And so we're already paying an amount at the 402. And so when we looked at that, the question was, well, if we're adding officers, do we really need to have the seasonal amount? And then the 911, that became a question as well. And so we did, after that time, ask the sheriff if we could reduce the amount by those two. And so, and he was in agreement that would be okay. Obviously, they would like to receive more, but they were in agreement that with adding the officers, they wouldn't need the seasonal amount. And so there's a revised, this was, and again, what you approved was the 597. And so we did leave that in there. Councilmember White asked that in an email, and we had put in, just assuming that you might want to go to the lower number. So we took off the seasonal and the 911, but we kept on there. And this is where we took off the original, the 285,000. That was our kind of our base contract amount. That established an amount per officer, but that amount per officer was less than, it was like 71,000. And what they were asking for is 79,000. So we took the difference between 71 and 79 and multiplied that by 4 to come up with that 31,000, because we were going to have to, because we didn't want to have some deputies a lower amount and some the other. We wanted to make those all the same. And so that's what that number represents. And then we had our half vehicle. And so that's how we came up with the 543,843. And this, the 475 represents 6 additional officers on this. Let me see if I can make that back a bit bigger. And so when you take that and with the new valuation, the increase ends up being 16 cents per thousand. And so we just utilized that new number. But again, what was approved at the prior meeting was the 597. Which was this one. And we took out, just so it wouldn't confuse people, you know, to have the 4 deputies and have the other, we made that a little simpler for people to see, because people may ask for this, to add the 6, that these are the things that we were adding for the 543. And then this is how we get to how you compute you can use per 100,000. So if somebody had a $1 million home, anybody can do the math and figure out that according to the ballot language. It is outlined in there. So, for example, if somebody wanted to see what the increase would be to their home, under this one that I'm here, it would be $16.22 per 100,000. You multiply that by, if it was $1 million, you multiply that by 10.
Brett,
Yes.
what is the budget amount that is used to divide and come up with the levy rate? I don't have that number offhand, but what's
It's
right there.
where is it?
1.8.
it's 1.8 million
1.8?
right here. Let's see what
Somewhere on there?
Where's
Okay,
it?
okay, yeah, I see it. I see it. Yeah, I see it.
So those were some of the items I thought I'd put there. Then the rest is you have the language in your packet, the 2 different options. I think we've worked through. Does legal want to say anything about the language on the ballot, and want to give us an overview on anything there?
We analyzed the requirements of the specific provisions of Idaho code pertaining to ballot language on levy overrides. And we also looked at ballots from other public entities that have recently had to change their ballot language because of the passage of 34914. And then also how they handled ballot language with respect to the requests that we're making as well under 638021G. So it was myself and Abby and Brett and Sandy who all took a look at this ballot language to make sure that it was clear and that it was easy to understand, and that the numbers that were put on there were very apparent to the voter as to what the increase was for, and how much it would eventually cost them. And like Brett said, they would be able to do the math themselves and find out for their personal property how much that would increase for them.
Yeah, keep in mind that, we're estimating based on the current conditions, and that's the language we used in there, because next year, the levy rate will not be exactly this. So we came up with the best estimate
Yes.
that we could. And that's what's allowed under state statute, is to basically take the current conditions and do your best estimate.
Yes, and I should say too that under Idaho Code 34914, the language that it uses is the type of language that is in our ballot as to what type of language it has to be there. And it says that the ballot has to substantially comply with what's in the statute. So we mirrored that language in the ballot so that there would be no question about substantial compliance.
And if you could correct me on this, I believe that the county will still vet whatever language we decide to put in front of them, should the council decide to advance that.
Repeat your question.
That the county will additionally vet any language that.
That's my
that is put
understanding.
in there. Thank you.
Brett, are you, in these figures you've put together, does it provide for, in the future years, COLA for the deputies' wages or any of that?
It doesn't. I think this was a step to add officers. I think over time, as they request, as we negotiate next year's contract, they may ask to put like a 3% increase or something in there that we would have to absorb in our general fund.
Okay, and the other question I have is in relation to Sandy, our finance director. This ballot language says funds will be used to pay for the cost of 6 officers. So the money that's collected for those 6, did they have to be kept, those funds kept separate from the funds we currently spend, or do they get to be combined?
I think that they will be combined when they come from the county.
Okay. All right, thank you.
But we'll have a record of that, and those will be obviously designated for, and we talked already about, those would be set aside specifically for this. I think the mayor made a good recommendation, clarification on the title here. He wanted to add, for law enforcement. So it says, we reduced, instead of saying Kootenai County twice and all that, it says City of Hayden based budget increase for law enforcement. Very simple and straightforward. So those were a couple of, not that it had to be, but made it maybe a little simpler to read. Let's see. Any other questions, thoughts?
I have another one.
Okay.
So it says at the beginning to vote for or against, you place an exit in the square next to it.
Yeah.
Does it invalidate their vote if they put a check?
And that's probably a county
Yeah.
I
clerk question.
Well, I just don't want to see things go awry because of some technicality. I guess I'm a little gun shy when it comes to technicality, so.
I think, actually, my vote, you usually fill in the box.
Right.
It's usually a little circle, isn't it? At least it was yesterday.
Well, I've done it many times when I voted different ways and stuff, but this is pretty specific, so I didn't know
Yeah.
if it mattered, so. All right, I'll leave you alone.
No,
now.
that's what this is for, questions and discussion.
Do you have more specific information for us, Brett? Or are you on this particular
Well, I
section?
had 2 other slides. I don't want to, presume if there's questions, I can, pull up a couple other slides on things, but I want to go the direction that your questions are or comments.
If you would remain there, please. I'd like to open this up to discussion with the council. I would first of all like to have council come to some sort of an agreement on the amount of money. And
That would need a motion, wouldn't it?
um,
Because I'm with you. I think we need to get to that before we go on.
okay.
Would you like me to hand this one out?
Sure, that would be
What's the
great,
next
Abby,
one?
thank you. The city clerk has put together two ballot languages, one of them with the 597,000 figure and the other with the 543,000 figure.
Thank you.
Same language, just the numbers change, but council might like to see those differences.
I guess maybe if this is the proper procedure to, and along with what we're saying, do we need a motion to adjust these numbers down to the 543 before we move on to discussion about it?
I believe we do.
that probably the-
Council had previously agreed to the 597, so if
To amend?
council so chooses, we would need to amend that motion to a different figure.
Okay, I would like the motion to amend the ballot numbers, language, to the proposed changes of the 543,843 figure, to replace the 597,843 figure.
We have a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'd like to entertain any discussion that council may have on that.
Can I just point out something on this here as well? And this gets to Matt's question in the last meeting that I thought was a good question, because our amount is 402, but if we take the seasonal amount off, it does reduce that down a little bit.
Brett, can you zoom that in? Down at the bottom, there's a little bottom.
Slide bar?
right.
Let me go to the
bottom right.
slideshow.
Slide bar on the far right.
Bottom right-hand corner.
Right
There you go.
there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you can see, the question was, what would the total amount be if you did the 543,843, plus what our current base amount would be? So the total to the sheriff would be 917,197. So a significant.
And that amount,
So anyways, that just,
and that amount works out to, where did I see it? $676 per month on a $500,000 home. For
let me pull that up.
this 543,843 results in a 16.2 per 1,000,
Per 100.
100, okay, or
Yeah.
8109 a year, or 676 per month on a $500,000 home.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to keep everyone straight, I believe that those figures were calculated actually on a $625,000 home with a $125,000 homeowner's
Correct, to
exemption.
take the exemption off, so
So
like a
all straight on that.
$625,000.
So we have the motion and the second to reduce the figure to 543,843. Council members, discussion?
Matt, any questions on, that was your question, and I thought it was relevant.
No, thank you. That clarifies what the total amount would be.
And
Do we have any further discussion on that? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Council President Roder,
No,
Councilmember Satterfield,
Yes.
and Councilmember DePreez.
Yes.
Motion passes. For the second action item that we have tonight, we, for the benefit of the folks that are here tonight, not only do we have to approve a ballot language, but City Council also must pass an ordinance that allows us to put this on the ballot. And that will be, the next thing we discuss tonight is the ordinance to put it on the ballot. Brett, do you have some information for us on that?
Well, you have the ballot language on there. I don't know if there's anything else. You can go to the second one that has in the 243. I think Abby provided the second, or the 543,843 one is one that Abby, I think, provided tonight. It still has, the expected levy rate is of $54.90 per 100,000 for next year. And the estimated increase with this number at 1621 per 100,000.
22.
And then 7112 for the total as the estimate. And then that carries through the ballot language and the ordinance language.
And for point of clarification, so you need to vote on the ballot language first. You just did the number, and then you need to vote on the ordinance.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next, I would like to entertain a motion to vote on the ballot language.
So moved.
Second.
We have a move and a second. Be happy to entertain any discussion that any council member has on the language on the ballot.
Mayor, I'd like to just read my statement.
Council President Roeder, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a statement here that I prepared, and it was based on the 597,843, which was what we approved. And now that we have a lesser amount that's been approved, the 543 number, it'd be 543,843 is what's been approved now. My statement that I'm going to make right now is a little off because of the reduction. So I just want to, clarify that. So this is my statement. I agree the city of Hayden needs to hire more deputies due to the population growth. My goal is to hire 3 more deputies, which will give us a total of 7. We currently have 4 plus 3 new hires. I wish to be completely transparent. For Hayden fiscal year 2022-23 budget, I've already voted to add 3 more deputies. The council has approved that budget. We added $300,000 to the $400,000 that we paid last fiscal year. Therefore, we'll pay Kootenai County approximately $700,000 in fiscal year 2022-23 for 7 deputies. It is approved and in the budget. My goal was met by adding 3 more deputies by voting for that. I do not support increasing property taxes to pay for growth. I do support paying for growth with impact fees. Impact fees are charged to builders and developers to pay for the impacts of growth. Hayden citizens should not be burdened with the cost of growth. The proposed ballot to permanently increase the city's base budget by approximately 32% is not the way to pay for the needed additional deputies. The ballot, if passed, is a way to pay for growth by a permanent increase in tax. I don't want to pay a higher and permanent property tax so that more people can move to Hayden. Recently, the city agreed to collect impact fees for Northern Lakes Fire District. Impact fees are the best way to pay for growth, and that's one way that they're doing it. In this morning's paper, it was reported, and I'll just read a short part of the article. It says, Kootenai County Commissioners will consider a recommendation today on whether to impose impact fees on development to support the sheriff's office, jail, accommodations, the coroner's office, and parks and waterway improvements. If commissioners vote to impose impact fees, cities like Hayden within the county must agree to collect the fees. We're already doing that for Lakes Highway District. The impact fee is expected to include a commitment from the county to hire 29 more patrol deputies over the next decade. The number that is what's needed to maintain the current level of service based on the county's projected growth. So, this is anticipating the growth. So I'm going to give you my summary on this, and I'll be done. Summary, I will not vote yes to permanently increase taxes approximately 32% that is collected by the city of Hayden to pay for additional deputies. The city just added $300,000 more in fiscal year 2022-23 to pay for more deputies. However, I do support 100% using impact fees to add more deputies, just as the county commissioners are considering doing. Currently, Northern Lakes Fire District is collecting impact fees to pay for growth. Impact fees should be used to pay for growth, not property taxes. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Council President Roeder.
Okay.
Councilmember DePriest.
Okay, a couple questions, I guess, in regards to that. Can future budgets be reduced if, in fact, impact fees are allowed by the state legislature and it comes to that point where they are collecting impact fees for law enforcement? We're then allowed in the future budgets?
Impact fees are not allowed to be spent on salaries.
Currently.
It has to be infrastructure.
Okay, but it sounds like
The county is asking
considering
for it
that.
for infrastructure.
And that does the legislature have to approve
Idaho
impact
code,
fees?
the impact fee code would need to change in order to utilize impact fees for salaries in any capacity. Right now, impact fees are only allowed for capital improvement projects that have a lifespan of 10 years or more.
And the state legislature would have to enact that code to allow the county to collect impact fees for what they're apparently talking
Any
about.
governmental
Right.
entity, correct.
Okay, so in effect, if that were to occur, let's hypothetically here, the city would then be able to say, okay, you're now getting this offset from impact fees, so we can now reduce our budget by X amount that we are currently contributing to law enforcement because it is now being collected through impact fees. Is
If
that a
Idaho-
logical?
If Idaho code changes
Right.
with regards to impact fees, it would be prudent to evaluate your budget at that time.
Right, that's where I'm going with it. And also, I think I need some clarification. I'm hearing this comment being made quite a bit. And it's amazing how it comes back through social media and people who contact me and say, is this really true? And the screenshots that I get is some stuff that's being put on social media that are talking points that seem to come from this dais. If I'm not mistaken, this is not a 32% tax increase. This is a 32% budget increase. Am I correct in that? We're not increasing taxes 32%. People's taxes aren't going to go up 32%. This is a 32% increase in our budget amount. Is that correct?
The city of Hayden's tax portion will go up by 32%.
So each individual's,
Just the
Just the
city's
city of
portion.
Hayden.
just the city's portion.
Yeah.
Right,
So
Just the
not,
line on the tax bill that's the
right.
city of.
That's what, yeah.
not your entire
Right.
tax bill.
Councilmember Satterfield, questions, comments?
You know, I share Matt's thinking about, you know, I've lived here, and you all know I say it all the time, I've lived here over 60 years. I don't want to pay for growth either, but I've been paying for it, and the need is now. And I think it's up to the people to determine if they want to tax themselves. I love these kind of things. We often do not get a choice on whether we want to tax ourselves, and this is a clear choice. As far as the Board of County Commissioners increasing their funding for 3 deputies to come to the city of Hayden, please keep in mind, that's only if they're not busy somewhere else. And this is a big county, and crime and the need for them. So you can't, in my mind, you can't look at, even though they said 3 deputies for the city of Hayden, that's not really true, because it's only 3 if there's enough deputies everywhere else. And one of the comments that I got from a county commissioner was that they feel that they're subsidizing the city of Hayden to a certain degree. And I don't know. And of course, they can't say about future if they're going to continue this funding. Now, impact fees, as Sandy pointed out, are only for infrastructure. So salaries and stuff would not be increased or be able to be used by by impact fees. One of the things, another reason, and I want to be clear on this, I'm not promoting a yes vote on a ballot if it reaches that stage or not. I'm promoting, I want to say, here's another need. When we look at the statistics for the crime that Sheriff Norris provided for us, that's only statistics that, you know, their calls and their actual things that they respond to. One of the things that's never been brought up is sex offenders. Currently, there's 33 sex offenders that live in the city of Hayden. There aren't enough deputies to check on them. There aren't enough probation officers to check on them. They are one of the highest reoffending parts of the criminal system there is. In the old days, and, you know, I'm one of the old guys, you know, Halloween, for instance, the sheriff would partner up a probation officer with a deputy, and they would drive by the addresses of all the sex offenders and make sure that their porch lights weren't on, that they didn't have decorations or anything to entice children to come up to their front door during Halloween. And I'm using this example in that, wow, 33 in our small town, but there aren't enough law enforcement to really take care of it properly. And I think that's a point that we've overlooked because the stats don't show that the deputies are necessarily doing that. And you know, maybe on their way to a call that's not an emergency, they might drive by and look. But, you know, are they in the stats? Does it specifically show they're running to that address to check? And what are they checking on? Or they just have time to drive by? Or are they actually stopping and checking on it? And currently, if I'm not mistaken, and I'd have to ask Sheriff Norris, I don't think anybody's really checking on them. So you have probation officers, but, you know, that's usually a once a month thing. So anyway, one of the things that Sheriff Norris has brought up is the city of Hayden needs to pay their fair share for law enforcement. And my concern is if we don't put it on the ballot and let the citizens determine that, I can't count on the Board of County Commissioners to continue any sort of funding to help us out, because I really don't think they will. And it's a hard one to call because we get new elected officials all the time. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Councilman, please.
On the language of both the ballot and the ordinance, something that I just recognize here that might be somewhat confusing. I'm hoping that we might be able to clarify it. At the bottom of the second paragraph, really the last sentence, it says, the resulting estimated average annual cost to the taxpayer if the proposed levy is approved is a tax of $71.12 per 100,000 of taxable assessed value per year based on current conditions. I would like to add something in there that indicates that that is the total of the, if this were to pass, combined with the city portion, that's the combined amount. Because as someone might read it, and I'm almost certain that there will be information put out there that it's going to increase $71.12, not $16.22. And so there's going to be that confusion. So if there could be some way to amend or change that to say that your total tax with if the levy should pass in combination, with the base city tax will be $71.12 per 100,000 to avoid that potential. They're saying that, that's $70.12 is what this is going to cost you, when in fact that's the entire amount, including if this passes. If that makes sense.
Ed, if I may, and I just want to make sure that I understand your question correctly, or what you're asking. So in the second paragraph, it says the expected levy rate for fiscal year 2023, 2024 is $54.90.
Right.
And then it goes on to say if the proposed levy is approved, the tax for $100,000 of taxable assessed value is expected to increase by $16.22, and the resulting estimated yada, yada, yada is $71.12. So
what I have penciled is if it were me, I would say simply something as simple as the resulting estimated average annual total cost to the taxpayer if the proposed levy is approved is a total tax of $71.12 per 100,000 of taxable assessed value per year. So that just to get that total amount in there, because and I keep bringing this up, but this is what's going to go on. Social media is turning into an absolute show, and the information that's being thrown around on it is confusing so many people who really have no idea what's going on. And I can almost guarantee you that if this is not extremely clear language, that people are going to just get more confused.
So we have a suggestion.
Sure.
What if it says the resulting estimated total annual cost? Take out the word average annual cost. So the resulting estimated total annual cost to the taxpayer, if the proposed levy is approved, is you wanted total there also. Total tax of $71.12 per 100,000.
I would hope that would be clear.
Total tax.
Total city?
Yes.
Yeah.
Total city?
Total city tax, yeah.
That's, yeah,
I
that's
just think this
fine.
needs to
Total
be
city.
very, very specific
Okay,
and clear. Thank you.
thank you for that.
So can I read that whole sentence again? The resulting estimated total annual cost to the taxpayer, if the proposed levy is approved, is a total City of Hayden tax of $71.12 per 100,000 of taxable assessed value per year based on current conditions.
I have a question. I think that's a great suggestion, but that doesn't prevent if values and things go down, the tax goes down, that doesn't prevent this from
No.
going down. Okay,
No.
just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
It's all based on current conditions, which is all we can do right now.
Okay, thanks.
To make a motion.
His motion.
That changes.
Do you have any further discussion on that?
We do.
I call for an amended motion then.
Statute
I would-
calls for us to
I would
say,
motion to.
We're checking the statute. Hold on.
yeah, 34914 calls for us to say that the estimated average annual cost to the taxpayer of the proposed levy in the form of
So the statute called for that language of average annual.
So can we say total average?
yes.
Yes.
We're going to keep in average because that's in the statute.
Okay.
But it'll say the result, what did you say?
The resulting estimated
Total average.
annual
Okay.
cost.
So total stays in twice, average stays in.
Okay.
Any further discussion on that?
In both the ballot and the ordinance, or do we have to do the ordinance next?
Yeah, but they both have to be
Right.
changed.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
But when we make the change to the ballot, we'll make the change
Right.
to the ordinance as well, so that everything is consistent.
So I will do it right here.
So may I have a motion to amend the language?
So moved.
So moved. Second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Might mention, because this was the last part of it, in case question comes up, I don't want there to be any confusion. When you look at the total amount, this kind of goes back to the numbers again. I don't want folks to think, if we lowered it by the 29,000 for the seasonal, and this is the total amount we're paying, somebody could say, oh, well, the city's benefiting from that addition, that drop in 29,000. We have the contract set for this year, and that's in the budget. And so this would be part of the contract for the following year. And I anticipate they're going to ask for, a cost of living type of thing to be added at some point. And so this gives us a little bit of wiggle room in the general fund to do that. So that was the thinking. I just throw that out there. I don't want anybody to think we're trying to,
That's fine with me.
run that
Okay.
by anybody. I throw
Thank
that
you.
out there, just so
Is
everybody's
there any
aware.
further discussion on the amended language?
The only thing I may, Mayor,
Council President Rhodes.
just to reiterate, I'm not going to read my statement again, but that applies to this vote also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call vote, please, Abby.
Council President Roder,
No.
Councilmember Satterfield,
Yes.
and Councilmember DePreez.
Yes.
Okay, now we can move on to the ordinance, unless council is shaking their fingers at me. No. Okay, great. We will move on to the ordinance. Brett, do you have information pertaining to the ordinance, or?
It mimics the ballot language, and the ordinance just has additional, the ballot language is embedded into the ordinance, it would have those same numbers and language. I think, in section 7, it does mention that it requires the 60% majority of qualified registered electors. I think that's noteworthy. It just talks about publishing in the newspaper. So it just adds a little bit more, but includes the ballot language in it. Anything else from the legal side of things on the ordinance?
No, I've manually interlineated the words from the ordinance to, or from the
Do I need to get out
ballot
my
to the ordinance.
interlineated? That's almost like bifurcated it.
Okay. Council discussion on the ordinance. Sure. Councilmember Priest.
Yeah, I'd like to kind of make a statement, and it's, so much of what's being said up here is repetitive, but again, need to emphasize it to make it very clear, okay? That all along, this has been about giving the people, as Councilmember Satterfield said, this has been about giving the people the opportunity to make their check or X in whichever box they so choose, that they will make up their minds whether they want or feel we need and or whether they want to fund the additional deputies and for that service. So again, this is not one way or another advocating for or against, as I, like everybody else, will do that when I walk into the ballot box or the booth. And it is just, again, giving the people that opportunity, each person who cares enough to vote, to make that decision in November. So with that being said, and I'm sure we'll have discussion afterwards, I'd like to go ahead and make the motion to approve the ordinance with the amended language. With the amended language.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Just that,
Council President Broder.
thank you, just that my written statement that I read earlier applies to this also. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the council, Citizen Tanner Cox, not Deputy Tanner Cox, last meeting said something that I keep coming back to. He said that if you don't fund the police, you are in effect defunding them. I think that's an important point. I believe two things. First of all, we asked a group of citizens to examine a problem for us. They spent 4 months examining it exhaustively, and they came up with a unanimous compromise recommendation. To disregard those citizens' 4 months of work is wrong. We have to trust the people that we ask to solve our problems. Second, law enforcement in Hayden is about to change. It's a fact. The sheriff and the commissioners have essentially told us that they are no longer willing to continue to subsidize law enforcement in the city of Hayden, the way they have been anyway. We'll either see an improvement in our city police force, or we'll see a law enforcement presence that is much more similar to those that live in unincorporated areas of the city. While I personally strongly support this ballot, just as importantly, I believe that citizens should have a right to vote on how they would like to see law enforcement in the future. Do we have any other comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Council President Roeder,
No.
Councilmember Satterfield,
Yes.
and Councilmember DePriest.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Mr. Mayor, if I just mention for those that are here, we did record this. This is a special meeting, but at the request of the council, we did a full record of this, and so it'll be on YouTube for anybody that wants to watch it again.
Okay, thank you. I believe our business is finished. May I have, oh, just a minute, maybe not?
You need to adopt the ordinance. So you approve the
Oh,
language. in
thank
the
you very
ordinance,
much. I
and
do
then
need to do that. May I hear a motion, please, to read the ordinance by title only, to suspend the rule of reading in full on 3 separate dates, and to approve the first reading?
So moved.
Second.
We gotta do a roll call.
This is regard, I'm sorry,
We gotta do a roll call.
roll call vote, please.
Council President Roder,
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield,
Yes.
and Councilmember DePreez.
Yes.
This is an ordinance of the city of Hayden, Idaho, calling for a base budget increase election to be held for the purpose of submitting to the qualified electors of the city of Hayden, Idaho, a proposition for the increase of the budget beyond 3% and the levy of a tax to fund such base budget increase. May I hear a motion that the ordinance be adopted on having passed its first reading by title only, and that it be published by summary, incorporating the title as the core of the summary upon passage?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Council President Roder,
No.
Councilmember DePreez.
Yes.
And Councilmember Satterfield.
Yes.
Motion passes. I believe that concludes our business here this evening.
Mayor, can I say one thing?
Absolutely.
I have a 3-year-old granddaughter who likes to watch Pops on this, and she doesn't understand why I don't say hi to her. Hi, Hayden. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
We stand adjourned.